In this short video, I'm going to look at some thematic ETFs that may perform well in Q1 2021. I've selected the ETFs by going to the Just ETF website, looking at their database and searching on 3-month performance. And I've tried to find ETFs that have had good, consistent price growth. So the ones that have had that in terms of equities have been ones that are more focused on a theme, focused on an idea, and bought the best companies that follow that theme. Use this to filter, and then I've also looked at fund size as well. So here's a cannabis ETF, performance pretty good, but it's only been able to attract £6 million worth of funds. So the conclusion is that not many professional investors like it, and just be a little bit wary. I wanted to be a bit more established before I went down the route of actually investing in it myself. So let's have a look at some ETFs. So we've got the list here. What I've done is I've looked at 13 weeks growth, 1 month's growth, 4 weeks growth. I pulled up a little sparkline chart, pulled up the moving averages, where the price is relative to the moving averages. So generally you want the highest number to be the price, then the shortest moving average, and then the longest period moving average is the lowest number. So when it all lines up like that, that's saying that you've got a nice consistent trend that's been fairly uniform buying throughout the last 100 days rather than choppy price action. So for INRG, I researched it a bit more by looking at maybe Hargreaves Lansdown or maybe Morningstar. Morningstar is quite interesting, showing you when the fund actually bought the companies. And so we can see quite a lot of solar power here, some wind as well, but solar, these two have been absolutely phenomenal performers on the NASDAQ, and they've really powered this ETF forwards. So it's got 30 holdings, and I should be able to get a geographic breakdown as well. So we can say overview, that's the chart. So he does nothing for quite a few years, and then suddenly, bang, it explodes. And then, oh yes, okay, so here we go. So it's reasonably diversified around the world, which is quite interesting. So it would mean that if the NASDAQ took a dive, it's actually only got 30% US exposure. So that's quite a good thing to see. So that's been the top performing ETF over the last year. And recently a very strong ETF has been this one, Battery Solutions, CHRG. So the chart pretty much vertical, only recently launched, but it's managed to attract $181 million worth of funds to it. So this could be linked to things like, it looks like a lithium, so it's the components going into the batteries and also kind of making the batteries themselves. So there's a lot of emphasis around, well, partly electric cars, but all sorts of other cleaner technologies and getting more powerful batteries, so that people can utilize that technology a lot more. So this is interesting that emerging Asia, which would be things like China and Korea, is actually the top region, and again quite diversified across the regions, which is good. And then another one is blockchain. So this is the technology behind Bitcoin and all the encryption. So although I'm not particularly a fan of Bitcoin, partly around its volatility, partly I suppose just don't really understand it enough, but there are a lot of blue chip companies that are using blockchain technology for transactions because they like the security that it involves. This has got $400 million in it, so that's not bad. Quite a high ongoing charge, but I'm prepared to pay the charge if the fund's going to grow by 70% in a year. I think that's a reasonable price to pay, and we might find another ETF provider will come into this space, and then the fund charge will come down from competition. And again, launched, a bit of a fanfare, and then does nothing, but suddenly explodes. And then these are some of the companies that are utilizing the blockchain technology. US #1 region, but again, pretty well diversified. And then also none of these are above 10%. So again, it's not bad in terms of diversification. And then another ETF that I like the look of is artificial intelligence. Pretty superb chart again there. $260 million worth of funds. And then this one, a bit more heavy on the US, but it is a worldwide fund. And then all kinds of companies involved in all the sort of data mining and technology around artificial intelligence. And then the final one of the 5 that I'm looking at is a mega trend ETF. So it picks 5 trends around, I think, things like blockchain, electronic cars, and it invests equally, so 20% in each of these 5 mega trends. The performance of the fund hasn't been quite as strong as the ETFs that focus on a specific trend, but to quote Bogle, don't look for the needle in the haystack, buy the haystack. So this is talking about, let's just look at some mega trends. Some will do well, some won't do so well, but if I invested in several just in one product, then that's a pretty good place to be. And with the thematic ETFs, it's more about being right on a macro level, so you're picking the right trend to be in rather than the micro level, which is the individual company. We don't need to bother so much with individual companies because we're backing several that are doing the same thing. So if one company has some kind of accounting scandal, some delay in a product launch, some kind of results that miss expectations, the impact on the ETF will be fairly small, whereas the impact on the individual share could be 20, 30%. This one's a smaller ETF, only $46 million. It's partly because the company behind it isn't so well known. The biggest holdings, blockchain, Neo, Pinterest, Baidu, so a lot of the technology, quite heavily weighted around the US, but again, a worldwide fund. So there we have it. These are the ETFs that I've selected. I think you've got INRG has the greatest performance over 12 months, but over 3 months, it's the battery technology, CHRG, that's doing well. ITEP, the mega trends, lagging a bit, but that's quite a good one in terms of diversification. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you do, give it a like, add some comments. What are some of your favorite ETFs for Q1? And we'll review this in the end of March to see how well things have gone. The issue is that it's very difficult to look 12 months into the future and to say, oh, this trend will definitely continue for 12 months. But I'm reasonably confident over the next 3 months that trends that are set in place have enough power, enough momentum behind them to continue.